for the first time, I'm Jamillah, stay-at-home homeschooler mama of three beautiful babies. I'm also a certified Reiki master, lineage healer, generational curse breaker, spirit whisperer, clairvoyant, and owner of healingmama.com. That's healing without the G, baby. You guys, we are back for an episode of the Motherhood Realness podcast. And I have my beautiful friend, Carly.
Hello.
You guys, tonight we are talking about healing, okay, while, during, after separation and divorce, okay? So make sure you share this with somebody who needs it, okay? Subscribe, ding the bell, get the notifications. And yes, Carly, where can we find you, girl?
Right now, I'm just on Instagram and Facebook. Facebook is Carly Michelle Hoffman, and my Instagram is Carly_Michelle87, spelled CARLI.
Carly with an I, baby. Or as Jet would say, this is Big Carly.
Oh. Oh yeah, that little girl.
Yeah. He be cracking me up. He always thinks that I'm talking to the little girl. And I'm like, no. It's the grown-up one. But okay, let's get into our topic. So tell us a little bit about your backstory on this topic.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was married for about 5 years or so, and I got divorced back in 2013. And it was one of those things that was my rock bottom, my dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it, like the darkest time of my life. And I had to go, I literally rebuild. So there's a lot of things I did and reached my best self. And it's interesting because I can see things like kind of sliding back now. And I'm not in that place necessarily with my relationship at all. It's just I can see there's habits of my own coming back in, but I can fall back on things I learned during that time. But it definitely a learning experience, and it ended up being one of the greatest things for me. I found myself. So yeah, it could definitely be, as hard as it is, be one of your greatest, most powerful experiences. So
yes.
yeah.
So what's some things that you, well, first, how long have you been divorced now?
In 2013, so about 11 years.
11 years. Okay. Girl, the math wasn't mathing in my
you're
head.
fine.
It's been a long
It's the
week,
end of the
okay?
day. And it's Friday, so.
What are some things like when you were fresh and new that you're experiencing and going through?
For me, the hardest part was I had to sit and feel like that, those negative feelings for a while. Because I think I feel like a lot of people, most people don't want to feel those. Like they're obviously uncomfortable. So I had to sit there and I was forced to deal with them, like forced to look at them, forced to feel them. And it was probably a few months at least until I literally woke up one day and I remember gone. Like I was like, oh, okay, this is a start. Yes. I'm not feeling so like there were so many emotions. There was anger, there was sadness, obviously, grief.
Oh yeah, totally.
And very, like, I almost felt like an impatient, like I was very like frantic almost for another, like I was like, I've got to be in another relationship.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know, it's interesting when you're with somebody and when that's all you know, really, that
people always say to get over somebody you have to get under somebody new. No, because you, like Carly said, you got to feel it to heal it. And if you are exiting one situation and you're not feeling yourself, you're going to take it into the next new relationship situation.
And it just cycles over and over and over again.
And so how do we tap in and feel our emotions? What's some things that you did to feel?
I think from what I remember is it wouldn't go away for me. Like it was so obvious and it was so strong that I had to sit with it. I had a really good support system. So I feel like if you don't, you can't really deal with it. It's like someone to really talk through. Like I had my mom who was very, very supportive and I could talk to and work through things. And just someone who was there, like not supporting or pushing behavior or pushing things, but the other thing that I had to do was be alone.
Oh,
And
girl.
so,
Oh, girl.
so loneliness is, and solitude is one of those things that people don't like to do either at all, because that forces you. That's one of the biggest, is it forces you to face everything.
You can hear and see
Yeah.
and feel everything because you're by yourself.
Oh yeah. So I say solitude, and it was hard because, I mean, you need that. I don't think we're never are always meant to be alone, but I needed that. So I was in solitude with my family and with myself for a while, and in that too, the other thing I had to do was walk away. Like I remember getting rid of, and this wasn't right after I got divorced, but shortly after, was getting rid of social media.
Oh, yes.
And silencing that because, I mean, I think it's something we all need to do quite frequently. I'm in a space right now where I don't want to be a part of it, but walk away from that, and that way I could gather my thoughts. I could figure out who I really was instead of the world and all the people, and putting their opinions in.
Oh yeah, and they do that. They do that for sure. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. If it was me, I would.
Yeah,
girl.
Yeah.
Boy, don't do me.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
it's exhausting.
It really is. So, in your silence, in your solitude, in your hermit mode, what was like any epiphanies or awakenings or realizations that you had?
That you have to be in love with yourself and know yourself before you can even be with anybody at all. And I wasn't. You're not really taught that. I think like a lot of people are not taught that.
Yes.
It's to please everybody else, and it's to be like, and especially here in Utah.
I was just about to say that where we live.
I feel like there's such a push for marriage and children so soon,
and catering to everybody else and everything outside of yourself.
Yeah. And so I was 19. I want to say 19 when I got married, probably. And when I was also young, I think this is important to teach younger girls and boys, every young child and teen, is you have to. I think it's important to date just to have fun, and I didn't do that either. And so I feel like I never had a sense of self really, and a sense of being strong in my values or boundaries or any of that. And that's stuff you do learn along the way, but I never had that. So I was like, serious boyfriend, marriage.
Oh yeah, and that's it is. It's like that here. It's interesting because you have a teenager. I have a preteen. Yeah. And an 8-year-old, 4-year-old, and I'm always telling them, you have to love yourself. You have to love yourself, and I like tell them different things. Yeah. But they kind of look at me like, Mom, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. And I know there's stages they go through where their friends are so important when they're teens, so important. But I don't know. There's just, that's the one thing I wish. And I after I got divorced, I did do the whole dating and single life thing, which was fabulous and healing. But it's important to start when you're young.
Oh
because you have no clue. I mean, you get married, especially for women. You get married and have babies, and you have no sense. And then when you have children, that's your identity, and you have no sense of self outside of that. So
that's absolutely true. So let me ask you, or backtrack a little bit. For our girlies and guys that may not have a support system, what do you suggest?
One of the other things I did was I did do counseling, and if you find a really good counselor, and if you have to search forever and ever and ever to find a counselor that fits you, then that's great. I was connected with a woman that through my church, and she was absolutely amazing. And the other thing with her, so another thing is, people like, I talk to people all the time about like counseling, and they're like, oh, I don't want to go, they didn't help me, or it was whatever. A real counselor, and even friends, will not like they're there to support you, but they're also there to call you out and help you learn about like what you could have contributed, what you're doing. And she did that. And I remember thinking like, what? Like, I was the one that got like, in my mind at the time, I got like, this is what happened to me. And then she brought up some things like, well, there's things you could have done and contributed, so let's find, let's work through those. And then, so she was great at that. And she also was really good at helping me recognize how angry I was. Anger is an emotion that is very frowned upon.
Oh,
I feel like, especially women. And
like, you're not allowed to be mad about
be mad
nothing.
and express it. And she just told me, she's like, you are so angry, and it's totally fine that you're angry. So you need to like accept that you're angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do it. Obviously, after that, it wasn't like this raging crazy bitch. I was like, okay, cool, I'm angry, and that's totally fine.
Yes.
And was able to work through that. And then she also encouraged me, because at one point, probably about 6 months after, after I started feeling a little better, I tried dating, and I got really, really like, oh, I like this guy so much, so I'm gonna cling on to him. And she was like, stop,
don't do it, don't do it, it's a trap, it's a setup.
And she said, you have got to be alone. And however long that takes. I remember being like, that's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, because we're taught at such a young age that our value is just based off of everything outside of ourselves. So let me ask you, Carly, how can we do a better job of taking accountability and responsibility?
I think I do think having good friends, a good support system, whether that's friends. I do think if you have to go, again, a counselor, somebody who's outside, like again, outside of yourself, that can truly help you see, like, okay, not just there to encourage you, I guess, like it completely into bad behavior, but. And then that I do think the solitude is, and being by yourself. For women, one of the other big things that helped me was, and before I found the counselor, I had talked with, and I actually talked to her about it too. I asked repeatedly, like, I do have a women's support group, because there's a difference in counseling and then women's support.
Yeah,
groups.
totally.
Like, there's things that can be said, and it's with women who experience what you experience. And at that time, there wasn't, like, she was like, you're just gonna have to ask around. I don't know of any. And that's what I needed. And I found, like, one of the first things I did was I joined a women's like workout group, and that started it, like women working through experiences, getting healthier. And then I found I also got the pole and sensual dance, and that's another part too. But the sisterhood, the women, like getting with women who, and just talking through your experience.
Oh yeah, and anger is so healing. Frustration, honey. But when you get with women, and I'm so happy that you found that, because us as women, we hold a lot of trauma in our hips and our wombs and things like that. So you were able to really transmute it through that. Go ahead, girl. Go ahead. And I've, of course, I haven't been divorced or anything like that, but it's important, like when you in any type of union, relationship, situationship, that we have to take a hard look inside and just be like, what could I have done differently? Okay. For me, with an experience that about, the thing I wish that I could have done differently is just speak my truth for myself, instead of just bottling it down and taking it. Okay. That's what I wish I had to do. Okay. And like Carly said, it's important to be by yourself. Scream it out, kick it out, cry it out, shake a little cheeks.
Well, and then speaking, that's one of my issues to this day, is still being able to clearly and confidently speak my truth. It takes me a while. Yeah. And that's how you set boundaries too. I have, and I'm terrible at that still. Like, that's something I'm constantly working on, is the boundaries, like being firm in boundaries. And I think being alone really helped me, because I did establish those, and I did learn a lot about, I need to bring this to a relationship. I need to know my boundaries. I need to be able to speak and hold those boundaries. Yeah. And it's so important, where your core values and your boundaries. So.
And also being able to listen to other people's boundaries, because I know that's, girl, that's something I did not do. I'm not even gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
I did not do that, like, at all. And by the grace of God, we're still making it. Okay, but I don't know how. But girl. Um, so as far as like, did you get any like backlash or judgment from anybody for dating? Like, no. Because I know a lot of people um I've talked to, they get a lot of little flack, especially from their ex spouse. Like, but aren't you? But
Mm-hmm.
hold on, okay.
Yeah.
So, do you think there's like a fail safe plan to execute moving on into new waters?
I think that, I mean, you're going to do you, first of all. And I think people are going to say whatever they're going to say. And when you, again, I go back to when you're solid in yourself, and it's not going to matter what people say
Yes.
necessarily. I don't remember getting any backlash really. Not to my face, not that I knew of anyway. So
Right.
whatever.
Because they don't ever say it to the face.
I mean, the one thing I probably got the most, and it wasn't backlash necessarily. It was more like, oh, that's interesting. Was when I got into pole and sensual dance, because that was one of the biggest healing. And to this day, it's something that I haven't focused on for a little bit because I've been focusing on other things, which I can definitely tell. It's like, okay, that's one of my. I gotta get back to doing that on a
Hips
regular
getting tight.
basis.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's you're gonna do what you're gonna do. I would just do it safely and do it when you're in a place where you're able to, I don't know, not bring your trauma and bring your, because as I learned throughout dating, I was single for about 7 years after I got divorced and learned a lot. And then I was able to see more and more of what I was bringing and what I needed to work on. And you can't force anything also. That one was when I got to a point of feeling confident and peaceful that sure, if I found someone that fits me, that's great. If not, then that's okay too. And so I think that's when things come.
Oh yeah.
I do believe that, but it's hard to be patient for that sometimes. But
yeah, it is. And another thing, like when people experience breakups, such separations, divorce, things like that, they're like we mentioned earlier, the best way to get over somebody is to get under somebody new, and that's how you mess up your trauma bonding. You have energetic ties.
Well, and with women too, and I like we're not meant for that type of behavior.
No.
And I learned that. So I struggle with because I got big into, and I still am big into the world, women's empowerment, women expressing their sensuality and sexuality. But women, I truly don't believe are able to truly function at their highest power in a place of just running around sleeping. And that's me, because that's how I felt. Like, even just a couple people, it was like, no.
Because we're divine. We're divine. We create life. And our sensuality, our sexuality just activates us. We connect on a soul level. We connect on a spiritual level. And whomever we are with, we activate them. And if they not worth it, you're activating some bad stuff out here. Okay. And that's racking up karma. It's racking up karma. So yeah. What else was I gonna ask you? What are some, like, did you journal or anything? Did you cry? Did you make a voodoo doll? Like, did you do anything?
No, I danced mostly. I danced and I cried a lot. I was not the funnest person to be around, and I say that to my family because they saw the worst side of me, which is they loved me no matter what. But I spent a lot of time with my son, being a mom, and I mean I was doing things I loved to do. Also, like my career at the time, I really really loved, so that was good.
Yeah.
And I got really big into, I mean, one thing that did save me too, I say would be God, spirituality, because not religion necessarily. I was raised LDS, and wasn't super interested, after my teen years or whatever. But that foundation, knowing God is there, is still there, and I went back. That's where like the bishop of the church guided me to that counselor, and then I just felt that there was a lot of little things that happened, and that guided me back. And then I got all interested in crystals and all those things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh yeah.
But oils, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh yeah, definitely having some good healing tools. Okay.
yeah.
Well, I do know that I heard a story the other day. I'm backtracking a little bit. But I heard that a lot of women get a lot of backlash for getting divorced. Like,
Mm,
oh, you just gave up.
yeah.
Like, how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel?
I think it's silly. I mean, obviously there are situations where it's not good. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not good for you, it's not good for your spouse, it's not good for your kids. But it was really hard for me to actually go through with doing it because I am very family oriented.
Oh
I
yeah.
grew up. My parents are still married. I grew up in I was blessed to have that where I grew up in a good,
Mm-hmm.
solid home,
Oh yeah.
and I love that family aspect. And so and then we had a very young child, and it was hard to think of that.
Mm-hmm.
I did think for a little bit I was breaking our family apart, and it's like, well, we're not happy. I didn't see us going anywhere, and then the thing that as far as deciding whether to get divorced or not or end in a relationship, we had boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
One of my biggest boundaries wasn't being respected, and so I completely lost myself, and I didn't know myself in the first place, really. And so it's like, well, if this and when that boundary was addressed, that it was kind of like, no, that's not really gonna work out.
Yeah.
So it wasn't. Yeah.
So, what's some ways that you feel like helped you tap in and love yourself and develop that relationship with yourself?
I had to, because at the time, again, I was in a phase of like self-loathing a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
where there's all that, all those thoughts that come at you, and then you just pretty much lost everything
Mm-hmm.
essentially. And I had to do, like, I forced myself to do self-care, like
Mm-hmm.
get myself ready every day, whether I wanted to or not. I did, after a period of, um, being completely alone, get involved with the women's group and met friends, and my job at work was fulfilling. So just getting back into the community, but the self-care aspect. And once you start doing that, it does change you from the inside out. Like you
Mm-hmm.
start to feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
And then I got into, eventually I started really focusing on nutrition,
Oh yeah, that nutrition,
and
baby.
I got into yoga also. That was another big thing. I love hot yoga. And so that's, the combination of all those things over a couple of years span, lost a lot of weight. I reached where, and I wasn't trying.
Mm-hmm.
That's where now I'm like, I just got to go back to
Mm-hmm.
where I was, and not
Yeah.
worry about weight loss. But, but, it was just coming from the inside out, and, it's so
Yeah.
self-care. And, I think, doing things that I enjoyed doing.
Mm-hmm.
I got used to going out and doing stuff by myself too, which
Oh yeah.
people again don't like to do, but it's more fun than you think.
I don't. That's so funny you mentioned that because that's where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've always either done something with Jarvis,
Mm-hmm.
and now that I have the kids, I tote them everywhere around. I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to go by myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when I get there, I'm like, when can I go home?
I know. It's because I think you feel like, for me, people were like, "Oh, why is that girl out by herself?" But I ended up going to like bars, not bars to drink, but bars
Yeah.
to listen to music.
Mhm.
I loved live music, so I'd go there by myself. I would go. I did go to dinner and lunch and all the things because I love food, and I go there by myself. I went to concerts by myself. I did go to some movies by myself.
That's
And
awesome.
so, even still, I think these things continue into a relationship because you have to be by your. You still have to be
Absolutely.
solid in yourself, which my trait that is really good but goes bad is
Mhm.
the people pleasing. Like I care so much about people, and then I go into people pleasing, and then I don't do anything for myself. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like that is just women and mothers in
Mhm.
general. But I feel like that is a very positive thing to do that everybody should implement,
Mhm.
even if you're in a like a healthy dynamic. You have to have time for yourself.
Mhm.
Like you should date yourself.
Well, you should, and
Yes.
I mean that's one thing I see it a lot now too is people not they don't do that, but they get upset at their partner if their partner wants to go out by themselves, and it's
Yeah.
or even the simplest of tasks like
Mhm.
to the store to I don't know. It's just there's like that attachment at the hip thing.
I do be like, please take me with you.
I know, and it's not. I mean, I think in a healthy dynamic, it's fine. But I do see some like I have people I work around or people friends I know that are like, oh, I can't let him go anywhere because he's gonna look at this girl, and it just kind of goes in this big giant.
Oh yeah.
There's no trust,
Yes, you
and
have to have that trust.
I mean, there obviously that goes back to traumatic experiences
Mhm.
or whatever that happened, but at some point you're going to take responsibility for it.
Yeah, and setting those boundaries early on and even having the alone time, like if you're doing that while you're dating, those kind of things, like it should be normalized so you
Yeah.
can have that trust because it is very important to have your own singular relationship with
Yeah.
yourself. Like I always say if like we don't love ourselves or receive love
Mm-hmm.
from and for ourselves, how can we do it from
We can't
everybody
give it to any,
else? Yeah.
yeah.
It is a little backwards, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Is somebody
And things
knocking?
flow so much different, like they just flow naturally when you're two people that are solid in yourself.
Yeah, two whole
Two
people
whole
coming
people.
together. Oh yeah, I
No,
like
you're not
that.
meant to complete somebody.
Mm-mm.
So that whole thing
Mm-mm.
about you complete me.
Yeah, no. No,
But
I think you gotta be two full size coins together, okay? So, what's some other things that you feel like are helpful when going through, like, for on the mom aspect? Like,
Mhm.
what are some? Because I
Mhm.
remember years ago, girl, when we got first vacay, there was a couple weeks, baby, I was in the bed. Okay,
Mhm.
how do you keep from? How do you keep? How you be a mama?
I know.
Like how?
Well, it was hard. I mean, my mom experience has been, I've had to work full time the whole
Mhm.
entire time and try to be a mom, also, and
Mhm.
a full time single mom. And it was hard. I mean, especially, I am thankful that he was very little because
Mhm.
initially, I mean, I'm like, I hope he doesn't really necessarily remember when I was at that point in my life as a mom because it
Oh
was
yeah.
really hard.
Hard.
Um, and again, I was blessed with I moved back in with my parents, and they were very supportive. So I had that, and
That's
I don't
awesome.
know
Not
how
everybody
anybody
gets
know, and I
that.
don't know how people like that's. I can't imagine how crazy hard and that would be like raising
Mm-hmm.
kids where you have nobody around, and
Mm-hmm.
so I did have that. But I don't know. I don't know how it honestly. There's some days where
Yeah.
it's like I don't know how I did it.
Girl, I know, and it's like when you're on the other side of it, it's like I survived.
I know.
I don't know how, but I survived.
But yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, take it one day at a
Mhm.
time. Take it one day at a time, and
Yeah.
you do have to give yourself a chance to grieve
Oh,
because,
yeah.
yeah, loss
Well, and
of.
grief is like I learned a lot about grief too because you're taught in school with grief, like it's
Mhm.
these stages and it happens this way.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned very much so that it's not.
Mhm.
And it's you can stay in a stage, and it comes back in waves constantly
Mhm.
throughout your life. Like it,
Yes, it
so
does.
it will go. It comes and goes, and
Mhm.
it can be. It doesn't have to be traumas, whatever. Like whatever it is to you, it's gonna hit the same. Like there's people that compare traumas.
They
They
do.
compare like
It's unique to
all these
everybody.
situations, but you feel your body takes it the same. And
Mhm.
so I did have to, and it is interesting because I have learned that you truly go through some of these things, and your body, you will know when you're done, and there's nothing you can really do about it. That's how I felt the first few months. Like there was literally nothing I could do about it besides just ride the wave. And
yeah, it is. It's a wave. Oh yeah.
that's how just let it
Ride it out, baby.
Ride out, and it will
Scream it out, yell it out, dance it out.
yeah.
So 7 years later, you started dating. And now we're 11 years. Girl, I can't believe I didn't do that math good because Jess is 11. Honey. Woo, child. It's been a long week. So, where are you at now with your healing journey? Do you have to do any maintenance with it?
Well, like I said, the interesting thing is, I've been in a relationship now for about almost 4 years, and it's been amazing. I mean, it was what developed slowly and naturally, which initially was hard for me because again, I was like, I just want to be together.
Yes.
And definitely taught me a lot. But I came in at a place where I feel like I was comfortable, like that comfortable place of if nothing happens, that's fine. And then it got to a place where I was like, oh, I really want something to happen, but it developed and I learned a lot. And then I've been able to see, so probably for the past couple like year-ish or so, as other big changes have come about, I've seen those patterns that are my problem. Like they're my patterns, they're my thing where I can see why before this is what caused me to like spiral. And so when there's nothing no outside influence, I guess, like, because I mean, I'm not going to sit here and talk. I don't want to talk probably about my ex-husband because that's a wave of its own. But there were obviously influences at the time. We were very young, and there were things that happened that to like the universe was telling me that this was not meant. And so, but this time around, there's none of that, like truly none of that. And so I can see things again. I go back to the people pleasing where I care a lot for people. Like I'm a nurse for a living, and that's why I started doing it. And that's all I do all day long as a nurse and a mom and a partner. And I get sucked into that pattern where it's just like, I just want to make people happy. And then I don't do anything for myself. So, I mean, I've gone back to, I've gained weight. I've started feeling unhealthy again. I've started neglecting those things that I love.
Yeah.
But there's no reason for it besides me. So that's where I'm like, okay,
this is
a good learning experience.
Like you're kind of, because I do the same thing. Like I'll repeat my same kind of like cycle, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, how'd I get back here again? No, yeah, wait a minute, absolutely not. So let me ask you, because I know a few people personally right now that are going through separation, going through divorce, and they're like, I don't even know what to do first. Like, what's the first steps when you're like, this is what I'm doing, and like separating your life from each other's life? Like, what are some steps?
Try not to focus so much. I feel like there's a lot of focus on the other person. Like, what can I do to this other person? What are they doing? They're going to be like, that's not going to do it. It's not going to get better. And I will say I did do that for the first little bit. There was such a strong focus on him. And it's like, it's not going to change. Like, this is not going to change. So you had to focus on change that to yourself, as hard as that is. So I would say start with self-care. And again, you're probably already going to be in a place of solitude, I guess, like, or your life has changed, has been flipped upside down, but all that can be a good thing, like where you can really focus on yourself. And whether it's, if you have a good support system around you, that's great. Otherwise, I would find some like I would say start with a counselor, try that. But yeah, start with yourself, like, for sure. But that focus on somebody else is not going to do not gonna do anything.
And how does it usually work? Like when you get a divorce, like who keeps what? Where do things
It totally
go
depends.
on your legal or what y'all decide? Because
Well,
I
yeah,
always,
it's
always
both.
wondered.
It can be
Oh, okay.
both. Yeah.
I always wondered because
Mhm.
baby,
It's and it like it can be pretty ugly sometimes. So
I'd be like waiting to exhale. I'm putting all your ish in the car and I'm setting it on fire. There's your stuff. Because I'm a Pisces, I'm petty. Garlic, because
oh,
I would have had the voodoo doll.
how fun, yeah.
I would have burned up
I
your
don't know
stuff.
like because again I didn't recognize. I don't. I like balance. I mean, I'm a Libra. I like
Mm-hmm.
balance. I like being fair, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So and I do need to find that side of me where it's like, no, this isn't fair, and this
Mm-hmm.
is
You can
yeah.
just call me, girl.
I know.
So now you know if some shit's on fire, Jamillah did it. I will
That's
burn
why
it.
we have those friends.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was at home with my
It's
keys.
so funny.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
So what advice can we give the girlies and the guys that they're going back and forth like, should I, shouldn't I? Am I tripping? What advice
I
could
do
we?
think that I mean, especially I don't know anybody's situations. It's hard sometimes, but I do think there is sometimes a lot of separations and divorce that can be um, amended, or like there's issues
Mm,
that can be discussed. Because I am a person that is more again. I love like marriage is a very serious thing, and to me, it's not something that you exit from unless you absolutely have to.
mhm.
But again, it's not. It's hard to say that when you're not in a situation, knowing everything going on behind closed doors.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think you have to have a strong foundation, and that's where when it starts young
Hmm.
and start out as friends. Um, and if it, if you don't get married, I mean, I don't know when you're, but if you're married and contemplating divorce, I think it goes back like if they're not going to listen to your deepest, like your core values,
Hmm.
respect those or your boundaries. Like when
Right.
there's no respect for those, that's where I think it's over. Like it's
Right.
like you can't be the one taking and giving everything and being like them taking from you
Oh yeah.
constantly and
Oh yeah.
disrespecting you. So
Now I'm like some people. I've been Lord, how old am I? 38. I've been around the block for a while, and I've heard some far fetched things that folks got divorced over because he didn't put his socks, honey, in the dirty clothes,
yeah.
and he left them. Now, if he throwing them socks at you, that's different. But there are things you can work on, and a lot of times when we get irritated about little things like that, and sometimes people genuinely don't respect us, but you have to take a look
Oh, yeah.
within for sure. But yeah, um
Well, nobody. I think the other thing is nobody's perfect either,
no, not at
and
all.
there is a big push. I think there's a huge push for this perfect package that's going to come
Yes.
to you, and it's going to be all like that honeymoon phase or sunshine and rainbows or whatever. And
For 50 years.
yeah, nobody's perfect, and
Hmm.
so I mean, people are going to do silly things that are going to bug you,
and
like
we and we go through seasons.
yeah, and we do. It's. But if you're able to communicate, be in a safe spot where like listening and communicate, like it's definitely a balance. But
Hmm.
no, again, nobody's perfect. Like
Oh.
nobody.
And a lot of the people that I feel um like in social with social media or celebrities or whatever that we look at their relationships, you don't really know what's going on in their
Mm-mm.
house. You really don't.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
No.
So you definitely, definitely get you some tools, get you
Yeah.
a counselor, and find out who you are.
Yeah.
And you can still find out who you are being in a union and being happily married
Mm-hmm.
or even not so happily married and working on yourself. Working on
All the time. Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to put blame on everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so.
Well, and people go through harder times. I can say that for myself. Like you go through again seasons or
Oh
ups and
yeah.
downs, and if you have to be able to be there for that person too. Like when that person's struggling, and you just walk out or you're absent because you don't want to deal with it. Like I think that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Again, nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
So,
yeah, and sometimes you do have to ride away, but if they're verbally, mentally,
yeah,
physically,
absolutely.
emotionally, spiritually abusive,
Yeah.
get out of there. Because Jamillah Jenkins could not. Okay. Get out! I'll be playing. I swear to God. Carly, why do you think we all have this kind of like belief that everything has to be this cookie cutter storybook? Where do we get that from?
I don't like. I think some of it, from my experience, like I think it can come from some religion, and I mean, I would generations of whatever, like where there's these expectations of, how women are supposed to, how the wife's supposed to be, and how the husband's supposed to be, and yeah, I think it's just generational, like passed down, and I think it's religion too. Like,
oh yeah,
those expectations, how marriage is supposed to be. And
yeah, have you ever seen? I don't know if this is the right name for it. Hello, darling. I can't remember, but yeah, there was this movie, and it was like that. Like it was the perfect little. It was giving. What's that? What's the one? The wives, the Stepford wives. Yeah. And like every day, it was like the same thing. And the wives were at home. They were cooking and cleaning and cooking their husband's dinner, and the husbands would go out to work and do all these things. And it was just like they'd have the best mind blowing, you know what? And it was just like so beautiful. Then everybody got together, and then there was one day, one of the wives started glitching. And then come to find out, these folks was in a whole ass simulation. That's what I feel like goes on. Like,
I also think part of it too, because I've been almost obsessed lately with like the masculine and feminine balances, the divine masculine and feminine. And I think even from like the beginning of time, that it's been skewed on both ends.
Oh
like
yeah,
what truly a union looks like, and because you've got the masculine, like the husband does all this and the wife is at home and she pleases. Like there's just all these things. It's like that's not how it's supposed to be either. Like it's not supposed to be this. Like, and I don't want to say it's not supposed to be anyway, but I don't know. I think there is values and there's knowledge in that where you function best a certain way when you're living, like the woman's in her divine feminine and the man's in his masculine.
Yeah,
and we have it in us, like both of us. But
yeah, males and females both have divine masculine and divine feminine energy, and they have to be balanced. And like, what is it that women that are more in their toxic masculine are very
I think they're hyper independent
and aggressive.
Yes, yeah.
And men are just like super egotistical and toxic. And what's like? I just see like this guy beating on his chest, you know. So yeah, that helps too if you learn about the energy, and bring that in, and just like I think one thing that could save a lot of people, okay, is that you don't have to get out of something all the time. Like, do the stuff first.
And you have to sit in because again, nobody likes to be uncomfortable. I don't like it, but you learn. That's where you learn a lot, and you have to put yourself in those situations. They're not going to go away anywhere. Like whether you're at work, whether you're with your kid, like they truly aren't going to go away. Because I look at it every day and I'm like, okay, at my job, I'm going to have to be in this uncomfortable situation, dealing with these people, what I do. And then I have to deal with not my son, but like, it's just like things that happen with my son. I have to go talk to a parent, or I have to do this. And then I'm still co-parenting. So I have to talk to my ex-husband and work through this. And then I have to express myself to my partner in a good way, or try to anyways. And then sometimes, I mean, I think another thing is with men, us women are very emotional. Oh yeah. And sometimes those, especially for myself, because I don't freely express it like I should probably. I'm not like, I I don't do that,
Mhm.
and I should more, but sometimes I get so bottled up. There's literally it's like a gigantic mess,
Oh
and I'm just
yes.
like I don't know why I'm so upset, or I don't know what I'm even feeling right
Oh
now.
yeah, that's
And
true.
so a man
They're very
is a container. Yeah,
logical.
they're very
Mhm.
logical, and so a lot of times they'll try to fix it, like, and they want to. They truly want to help, and they want to come to solutions for your good. Like it's not a most of the time. I don't think it's a what's the word a negative thing, I
Mhm.
guess,
Mhm.
but it doesn't help not necessarily, and it's just you being a container in a space, like to allow her to do whatever she's gonna
Express her
express, however
emotion.
it's gonna be,
Yeah.
and that's helpful. Like because then you can sometimes just sort out afterwards after you
Right.
let that ball of emotion out or whatever
And
it is.
yeah, and don't always feel targeted and
Mhm.
attacked.
No,
You know?
and that's where your own healing comes into play, where it's like don't put your guard up, or women just emotionally also. I think there is a place where you have to reel it in instead of being like this emotional bomb that's
Mhm.
gonna, there's finding those balances
Oh
where
yeah.
you don't have to. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
and have your spaces with your
mhm.
divine feminine woman friends to let those emotions
Yeah,
out all the time.
yeah.
But we're
And if you
just
have
so
good friends, again, your friends really shouldn't be encouraging poor behavior.
no, absolutely
And I
not.
say that because I've been in that situation where I've had friends that are like, you should do this and you need to do this because he's doing this. And it's like, and I do look back sometimes when I was married and I'm like, okay, where did I have good, like, were these friends really my friends? Or, and now I have friends that can listen to me complain or whatever and let that out. And then we can talk about it and they can be like, okay, so I don't think this is happening, and let's try like where it's a good communication.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Yeah, don't have no friends that be encouraging like, oh, you're you're single and ready to mingle. Let's
mm-hmm.
go. Just
Oh my
line them
gosh,
up and
yeah.
shoot them down. Oh my gosh, like how many times have a lot of these people gotten in trouble with their friends?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. You gotta. I think when you separate out of your union, you kind of separate out of your other relationships too, don't you
Mm.
think so?
That was another like that was a hard part too. Is I lost a lot of friends at the time, like
Mm.
a lot, and I've come back around for quite some time now. I don't even know if I truly lost some of that. Like it was just kind of a backing off, I guess. But some of them are my closest friends, like now.
Mhm.
But it does separate, like you do to get to see like who really is there for you and who's not.
Did y'all ever have anybody where like, well, I'm just her friend or I'm
Mm,
just his
kind
friend
of,
or
yeah,
really?
yeah,
That is so high school.
but
Like,
not so much. But
mm. But I do. I have a few people that are close to me that are going through separation, divorce, things like that, and I never would imagine being like,
you know, I'm on her. I
yeah,
mean, I definitely can see if there's a abusive set. Like there's
oh
something
yeah,
that really is going on there for sure.
hmm
And
that
you don't have to.
that
I mean, you can definitely. I don't know. Yeah.
if that's going on, baby, I already told you, I'm lighting it up. I'm getting these hands together. These earrings are coming off. Where's the
I know.
Vaseline? That's when I fight. Jamila don't fight, but I'm a fight man. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
yeah, I just hear different horror stories of that, like, oh well, I can't be friends with you because, or I can't talk to you, girl. Why you ain't been answering phone
Mm,
calls? Because
it's exhausting.
we're being friends, or especially your married couple
Yeah.
friends. Oh well, we got to be friends with him, or we got to be friends with her,
Yeah.
or family members.
Hmm.
Like even the freaking family members, like we can't talk to you anymore. But you guys are still
I
family,
know.
especially if you have children.
Well, and I will say one good thing is I'm still close with my ex-husband's family. Like
Oh, good.
that's been good. That because I that would be very hard. But
Yeah.
I mean I don't know. It's there's a lot of ego and emotions and hurt obviously, and I don't know.
And like I said, I ain't never been divorced now. But I always say to people, like, I just can't imagine that there's so much love loss,
Hmm.
especially when you guys have a family
Yeah.
and you guys have been just in each other's lives to be completely just like, it boggles my mind, but that's the reality for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And so you should always have yourself, like we said earlier, nice support.
Yeah.
If you don't directly have like a good support system, good family, good friends, y'all can meet some folks.
That is, and that's the fun thing about being going out there. Like you have to put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I met a lot in those women's groups. I met a lot of women, and
Mm-hmm.
to this day, I still like go out and meet people, but it's not usually it is with together with your partner. But
Oh yeah. And there's so many like, baby, Facebook got a group for everything.
mm-hmm.
So you can find
Well,
somebody.
there's that now. Like when I tell women, I'm like, there's so many groups now. Like when I was looking for that, there really wasn't that I desired, and so yeah, it's.
I think culturally, especially here in the States, they look down on women getting together. Because baby, we can mess some stuff up. We can mess some stuff up and get people together. Okay. So if you are a woman going through stuff, get you some women friends. Healthy.
Well, when you're in a healthy sisterhood, like we thrive. So we thrive and survive on our sisterhood connections, and that's how it always has been. And they know. I mean, it's powerful.
What they used to call powerful. What they used to call it, a coven.
Yeah, all sorts of things. There's all sorts of.
Yes, we're doing that.
And so it's definitely important. And they do. I think there is they try to separate that. Men need it too. I mean,
yeah.
And I have seen there are men's groups, and I love seeing that because men definitely need their man friends and definitely need to talk.
Some healthy masculine.
It's obviously
man
not
friends.
like our women's groups, but it's.
I don't know, girl. I've been seeing some stuff on social media. These fools be crying. I mean, no, I don't want to say fools, but they be in there holding each other. Like, good on you guys.
It is. It's because it's hard. It's so frowned upon.
It is.
Then you have all these toxic, the toxic men that are hurt. They're still hurt little boys and things like that. So.
we live in such a magical time now because there are these avenues and outlets, and I know we're probably like our great grandmother's great girl, you okay? Great grandmother's dreams, because they didn't have these outlets. They just had to endure. Baby, we ain't enduring. We healing.
And you shouldn't have to just endure, like just skim along life, like that sounds that's
a sad life, huh? But that's how it used to be past generations, honey. Like we burning shit up. I'm still on the burning, girl. Oh shoot. Will you have any other advice or anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
Also, some beautiful things that you can do while you're going through and changing is Reiki. That's another beautiful thing.
I did do that actually. That's why I learned about it. So
I love that because it heals for past, present, and future while you're healing your heart and your mind and your sacred space and things like that. Because that girl just you know.
Well, there's again a deep body mind connection that. I think there's a lot of people. I would say most people are out there just carrying around like physical disease and tension, and it's all. I think so much of it is contributed to stuffed emotions or traumatic experiences or grief that you weren't allowed to really go through or express or whatever. It definitely has a physical, and I again see that in myself now with the tight hips and with
me too.
Other things where it's like, I know where that's coming from, but
me too. I have very tight hips from early on traumas, but yeah, like Carly was saying, like we were talking about the men, but they're just wounded little people that are grown big people now walking around just still hurting folks. Okay. So it's okay. It's okay to admit, you guys, that you need help, that you need support, that you need healing. Because that's what this life is about. It's not just about who we marry and what we accumulate and accrue. It's about healing. Healing first, you guys. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else to add,
I'm good.
all right, you guys. Well, thank you, Carly.
Yes, thank you.
I love you so much. You guys also go follow Carly on Instagram. I can't talk, and Facebook. Okay, and then we're gonna see you guys. I'm revamping some things, so stay posted, you guys. All right. I'm gonna see y'all in the next one.
Have a good night.